So in this video, we are going to put together our new cardboard greenhouse. We're going to start with our cardboard pieces. These are laser cut. You can cut these with scissors and use a hole punch to get there. We're also going to utilize all of our 3D printed pieces to hold our sensors, and we are going to use all of our sensors, shields, microbits, I2C, lights, fans, and attach everything so we'll have a final completed greenhouse so you can see what it looks like at the end. So let's get going. So we've got our pieces for our cardboard greenhouse, and it basically works like a tab-based system where when you look at the greenhouse, you'll see it's got little slits on the side and kind of tabs on the top. And that's true for each of the pieces. So what I have found easiest is you kind of just put the tabs together, right? So they kind of stick together like that. And it's best that if you can do it, if you have a helper, it's easiest. But since it's only me, we're going to do it where we put in the two ends and then one side. Then we're going to attach a roof, and the roof is going to help us stabilize it on the sides. Okay, and so I'm going to put in the flappy side of the roof. This is the side of the roof that allows us to be able to open up the roof to be able to see the inside without having to take off the roof. Okay, so there we go. So this just opens up like that. All right. Now, on the other side, I'm going to take my other side and I'm going to slide it right in the slot. Okay. And then I'll slide this other side also right in this slot. All right. So perfect. Okay. Then I can put on my other roof. Okay. And this is the roof that we are going to use to attach all of our sensors, because this roof has all the holes. Okay, we're going to attach all of our 3D printed parts and everything to that. Now, one of the things that we also have done is we've got these little 3D printed corners. They can be used to anchor your house together. And so they go on the bottom, and they can be used to help hold the bottom part of the greenhouse together. And so you kind of just slide them on. They're designed not to be super tight because we don't want you to kind of bend the cardboard, or we figure students might bend the cardboard trying to get them in and also trying to get them off. So they're really designed to help hold the greenhouse and to get it off the ground a little bit if you spill any water, because this is cardboard after all. And so they're basically just little tiny corner brackets that help the greenhouse stay in place. And so they just slide right on. There we go. And you just do each corner. You don't necessarily need them, but they can help to help the structure of the greenhouse. So it does help stabilize it. Okay. So now I've got my little corners on. So now let's start playing around on getting some of our electronics installed. So we've got all of our 3D printed pieces. Okay. So we're going to use our 3D printed pieces to hold our electronics. So we have a shield holder. We have two different kinds. One that allows you to have the microbit inserted right side up, and the other one upside down. Depends on when we printed them. Okay. So I am going to have my greenhouse kind of facing so you can see it. And I'm going to put my shield over here. Okay. It doesn't really matter. You can put it over here. You can put it up here. Okay. Doesn't matter. I'm actually going to slide it right on this side. Okay. And we'll see why. Because I want to use this little square right here. And there'll be another one over here so that we can slide through our air sensor. Okay, so now let me find my shield. So here's my shield. I'm just going to slide that in. Boom. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to attach my I2C. So the I2C will fit in any of these sensor or holders Doesn't really matter. Typically, we put the I2C one in the whole one. Sometimes those that have the little gap in here are designed for the new version of the OLED screens. So depends on what's in your kit. I typically reserve the solid one for the I2C port. So let me find my I2C. Here it is. Okay. So I have already installed all the 4-pin wires. Okay. And we're going to install the various sensors to it. Okay. So this guy has all the wires installed. And how you get this installed is you just slide it right in. It only goes one way. If you try to slide it in the wrong way, it won't go in. Okay. Boom. And I'm going to put it someplace over here. Okay. And again, you can arrange things as you see fit, right? Again, I could put my shield over here. Again, it doesn't really matter, but I do need to have one of my I2C wires needs to get attached to my I2C port. Okay, then all of my other sensors are going to get attached to my I2C. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit to help us see a little bit better. All right, and I'm going to zoom up a little bit to help us see our greenhouse a bit. Okay, so let's zoom up a little. There we go. Okay. So let's put on our OLED. Okay. So the OLED goes in any of these. It just slides in just like that. And I can put it wherever I would like. Okay. It attaches to my I2C. And now I am going to grab my air and temperature sensor. Let me find where it ended up. There it is. So this is my AHT. Same thing. I am going to attach it to one of my I2C sensors. Now this guy is a little different. All right, I could attach it, I could leave him outside, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to slide him through this little hole right here. Okay, and why I'm going to do that is so I can install my AHT sensor so that I can monitor the temperature and humidity inside my greenhouse. Okay, we do have a holder for the AHT sensor, so you can mount it on the inside so that your AHT sensor can get mounted so it's not dangling in here. Doesn't really matter if you use it or not, but we have one. Okay. Next up, I'm going to do my light sensor. That's the one from Adafruit. That's the little black one. And that has the little tiny short cable. And it's got 2 ends on it. Again, it doesn't matter which side you plug it into. All right. And then I'm going to slide it into my holder. Boom. And I'm just going to mount it, stay right down here. Okay. Next sensor I want to mount is, let's mount my real-time clock. So I've got my real-time clock, and it has a special holder, and it is got a little curve in it. So I dropped it on the floor. There it is. Okay. And when you look at it, it looks similar to the I2C and the OLED, but there's a little bit of a circle curve to it, so that when you insert the real-time clock into it, it slides in such that the little battery kind of fits in that little circle and it's kind of snug in there. Okay, and I'm going to stick it in here as well. And it is going to need to get attached to an I2C. But notice all my I2Cs are full. That's why for this greenhouse, which has all the sensors right now that we are utilizing, you might not use them all. In fact, you probably won't. I'm going to put another I2C hub on. And you can daisy chain these guys in a way such that they will talk to each other. So I'm going to put another I2C just right down here. Then I'm going to attach I2C hub 1 to I2C hub 2. Okay. And then my real-time clock can get attached to I2C hub 2. Okay. That's going to be useful for my air quality sensor. Let's do that one next. So your air quality sensor is a great big box. Okay, and we have a holder for it, and it can be attached in two different ways, as we'll put the two little pegs on the back and on the front. So you can mount it either holding out as a tray like that, or you can mount it on the side like this, right? Or whichever way that you want to do it. You have to make sure that you adjust it such that the wire goes through one of the sides holes. Right? So, and it's designed such that it should fit once you get it in. And I'm going to actually put it over here on this side. Okay, and it's just going to get attached to my I2C hub number 2. Okay. Now you can't display the air quality data on the OLED screen at the same time. Because they use the same pin numbers in the I2C pin numbering system. So you can data log the air quality, but you can't display it on the screen. So that'll be useful. And you'll have to pay attention on whether you're going to have your screen upside down or not. So when you see the data on the screen, you might have to adjust it one way or the other. Depends on whether you want to read your data upside down or not. Okay. So now our next thing is, if you're going to use it, is the CO2 sensor. Again, the CO2 sensor is our most expensive sensor that we have. It does also have its own little holder, and I like attaching the wire to the CO2 sensor first. Okay. And then inserting it into its holder, because it's a little bit more finicky. And then we can attach it. Okay. Let's put it up here. Again, it doesn't really matter where things go. You just want to make sure that they fit. Okay. So notice most things go into the I2C, so that makes life a little bit easier with most of our sensors. Okay. Now, next up is going to be our actuators or our relays. Okay. But before I do that, let's do our LED strip, because sometimes it's nice to get it. And in the instructions, and typically in the sequence of the lessons, the LED strip is one of the early activities. So I'm going to plug it into my P0 port. Right? And then I am going to wrap it around my greenhouse. Okay. And we have LED strip holders. So usually you should have one or two of these. And what it's going to allow you to do is to really mount the LED strip and hold it in place such that it doesn't just flop around. So I'm going to put another one on this other opposite side of my greenhouse just to keep my LED strip in place. Now the LED strip has a lot of weight to it, and so sometimes these will give way. So we have these little flexible holders. So what you can do with these is you can take these little guys, okay, they're just hollow, and what they do is they just slide onto the pegs on the inside, and that's going to allow you to adjust the tightness of how this holds on to your greenhouse. And so if you push it on really tight, it's not going to come off, right? So you only typically need one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one onto one of my little LED light strips, and that's going to hold that one in place. All right, now let's install my fan, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this fan over here on the front part of my greenhouse here. Okay, and notice it will stay in place, for the most part, so you can do it that way if you want. But we do have a holder, okay? And the holder, the fan just slides right in, and it's got a cross and a hex nut on it. So what you can do is you'll take the cabling and it can go inside the greenhouse, and it can go with the screw for the holder on the inside. Let me put that in there nice and tight. There we go. And then on the inside, you can put this over the screw, and then that will screw on such that it will stay into place. Okay, so let's see if that is visible inside there. Yep, so now you can kind of see how it's attached inside of there. And you can have the fan, right? You can have this fan on the inside of the greenhouse, and this allows you to quickly adjust it. But again, if you're not going to adjust the fan and move it in and out, you don't need the holder, but the fan will fall out. It's a loose fit. Just make sure it's a tight fit. Okay. And then what you can do with your fan is you can slide the power connector for the fan out through one of these little squares. And this is going to determine where you're going to be able to mount your relay. So your relay holder operates kind of similar to all the other ones sensors that we have. The relay just slides right in to hold it into place, but it's got the two pigtail connectors. So you've got the one for power, and that's the round one, and that just gets pushed into the round hole and it snaps into place. And then you've got the square one that's going to be attached to the fan. That goes in the kind of rectangular one. You push it all the way in and then push it down, and it's designed to be a little tight. So you might have to push it fairly hard. But now it's not going to budge because you don't want to have to push this and have this come loose. But now I can put this relay right here, and my fan can get plugged into my relay, or I can mount it here, right? And I can have my relay get plugged in just like that, right? Which is kind of cool, right? Then I can use my 4-pin cable that's connected to my relay and plug it into my shield. So I'm going to plug it into P2, and that's where my relay is going to go. I can do the same thing with my light. So with my light, I'm going to first open up my window, and I'm going to mount it to the holes that are on my greenhouse. So I'm actually mounting it here. I could put it on any of these that are free that are extra, right? So I could mount it up here if I wanted to, right? Then I'm going to pop this guy all in, okay, just to have them not dangling outside. And I've got squares on both sides, so I can decide which way I want. I'm actually going to feed it out this other direction, okay, because I'm going to actually have my other relay, I think. I can mount it up here. I can mount it over here. Doesn't matter. You have a lot of slack with the light because it's a ridiculously long cable. And usually your bottleneck is the length of cable that you have for the relay. Okay? So we can decide where we want to put the relay, okay, for the connection point. So I'm going to put my relay, let's say, down here. Okay. And so I'm going to mount my wire to my relay. I'm going to take this off for right now so I can put my wire in. Okay. There we go. Now let's mount this. Okay. And I'm going to have this guy go to, let's say, here, which I believe is P8. Now, sometimes your relays can come loose. So again, you can attach one of these little flexible cylinders to the back. Same thing you can with the shield if you need it. Right? And now I can take my light and I can plug that in to my relay that's going to control the light. And then I just need my power supplies. And typically your power supply is going to be a USB-A power. So you can power it with a laptop, or you get a power port, something like that, and it's attached to two pigtails. And then one pigtail can go here, one pigtail will go here, and this gets us our power to our relays. And notice as you get the wires, right, they get a little loose. That's why it's not a terrible idea to go in and mount and make sure that your relays are staying in place. Okay. All right. And I'm going to do the same thing to my other relay on this side, just to make sure that he doesn't fall off. Okay. All right. Then all that I need now is I would have downloaded my program to my microbit. I will mount it there. And so now my program will be happily running on my bit. And if I don't have my microbit plugged in, which you shouldn't if you have this much stuff on your greenhouse, if you have all of these sensors installed on the greenhouse, you will want to plug it in. And that is how we operate. And now you've got your greenhouse wired up. Thank you.